Episode 1. The View from Below. The alarm chirped at 5:30 hours, a soft, insistent tone that Dex Halloway had grown to hate over the past 6 years. He slapped the control panel beside his narrow bunk, silencing it, and lay still for a moment in the darkness of his quarters. The air recyclers hummed their eternal song through the walls, a sound so constant he only noticed it when he woke, before his brain filtered it into background noise. Dex swung his legs out of bed, his bare feet touching the cold composite floor. His quarters were exactly 3.2 meters by 2.4 meters, standard-issue C housing for civilian maintenance staff. A bunk built into the wall. A fold-down desk currently serving as a shelf for his collection of worn paperbacks. Actual paper, a luxury he'd inherited from his grandfather. A narrow closet. A hygiene station behind a privacy screen barely large enough to turn around in. But it had a window. Dex crossed the cramped space in 3 steps and pressed his palm against the transparent aluminum viewport. It was only 40 centimeters across, but it was his. Beyond the thick material, the curve of Earth filled his view, a vast marble of blues and whites and greens suspended against the infinite black. The Terminator line cut across the Atlantic, dawn breaking over Africa while the Americas still slept in darkness. He could see the lights of cities scattered across the night side, tiny pinpricks of human civilization. Starbase 447 orbited at 42,000 kilometers, far enough out that Earth looked like a jewel rather than a world. From this height, you couldn't see the scars, the dead zones left by the synthetic wars, the refugee camps sprawling outside the megacities, the atmospheric processors still working to undo 2 centuries of industrial damage. From here, it looked perfect, pristine, worth protecting. Dex had been born down there, in the Seattle Arcology. He'd lived his first 23 years under those domes before saving enough for a one-way ticket up the elevator. 6 years ago now. 6 years of mopping floors and scrubbing air filters and being invisible. He watched the slow rotation of the station bring the sun into view, a brilliant point that made him squint even through the viewport's auto-tinting. The solar arrays stretched out from the station's central hub like the petals of some vast mechanical flower, drinking in the light and converting it to power for the 50,000 souls who called this place home. Another day in paradise, Dex muttered to himself. He turned from the window and began his morning routine. Hygiene station first, a sonic shower that left him feeling clean, if not quite refreshed, followed by actual water for his face and teeth. Water was rationed but not scarce, one of the benefits of living on a station that processed thousands of tons of ice from the mining operations in the belt. He stared at himself in the small mirror as he brushed his teeth. Brown eyes that his mother had called soulful and his ex-girlfriend had called sad. Dark hair that needed cutting, falling almost to his collar. A face that was neither handsome nor ugly, just average, forgettable. The face of a man who blended into crowds, perfect for a janitor. Dex pulled his uniform from the closet. Gray coveralls with the Starbase 447 maintenance insignia on the shoulder, a stylized representation of the station overlaid with a wrench and hydrospanner. The fabric was worn but clean, the knees reinforced with patches he'd applied himself. He'd been meaning to requisition a new set for months, but the quartermaster always seemed to be out when he showed up. Low priority. Maintenance staff rated below military personnel, scientific staff, diplomatic corps, civilian administrators, and probably the station cats. He sealed the coveralls, clipped his identification badge to his chest, and grabbed his tool belt from its hook. The belt was his prized possession, 3 years of accumulated instruments, each one earned or traded for. A good hydrospanner with an adjustable head. A multi-scanner that could detect everything from electrical faults to gas leaks. A plasma cutter for the occasional stuck panel. Magnetic gloves. A headlamp. Cable ties, sealant patches, and a dozen other small items that made the difference between fixing a problem in 10 minutes or waiting 2 hours for the right equipment. Dex checked the chrono on his wall panel. 6:03 hours. Time for breakfast. The corridors of Habitat Ring C were quiet at this hour, most of the civilian population still asleep. The ring rotated to provide artificial gravity through centrifugal force, a gentle 0.8 g that was easier on the body than Earth standard, but enough to keep bones and muscles from deteriorating. Dex had learned to read the subtle cues that told him which direction was spinward and which was anti-spinward, how to lean into the Coriolis effect when taking corners. He passed a few other early risers. A Vexian engineer with all 4 arms laden with equipment crates, her reptilian features set in an expression of concentration, a pair of off-duty Marines in PT gear heading for the gymnasium, an elderly woman he recognized as Dr. Chen from xenobiology, walking with the careful steps of someone not quite awake yet. None of them looked at him. That was normal. The mess hall for civilian workers was located at the junction of Habitat Ring C and Spoke 7, a utilitarian space with tables bolted to the floor and serving stations along one wall. The morning shift was just beginning, and the smell of coffee, real coffee, one of the few luxuries the station imported from Earth at ruinous expense, filled the air. Dex grabbed a tray and moved through the line. Protein paste molded into something approximating scrambled eggs. Synthetic bacon that tasted almost right. A piece of actual fruit. A small apple that must have come from the hydroponics bay. Coffee, black, in an insulated cup. Toast made from algae flour that was nutritious, if not particularly flavorful. He found an empty table near the viewport. Another window, this one looking out at the rest of the station. From here, he could see the massive central hub where the military command centers and diplomatic facilities were located, a cylinder 2 kilometers long and half a kilometer in diameter. The habitat rings circled it like the rings of Saturn, 6 of them at different levels, each one home to thousands. The docking arms extended outward, bristling with ships of every size and configuration. He could see a Thryn cruiser at one of the large berths, its hull decorated with the intricate honor markings of its clan, a human destroyer at another, sleek and deadly. Dozens of smaller craft moving between the arms like fish in a coral reef. Dex ate methodically, tasting nothing. His mind was already running through his duty roster for the day. Section 7C needed its air filters replaced. The waste reclamation system in the Xenodiplomatic Quarter had been making strange noises. Someone had reported a flickering light in Corridor 12B, which probably meant a bad power coupling. And there was the ongoing project in the lower maintenance levels, the one that nobody else wanted to touch, crawling through the access tunnels to inspect the ancient infrastructure that had been in place since the station's construction 40 years ago. He was halfway through his eggs when he noticed her. Dr. Alara Voss sat 3 tables away, her attention focused on a datapad propped against her coffee cup. She wore the dark blue uniform of the Diplomatic Corps, her lieutenant's insignia gleaming on her collar. Her black hair was pulled back in a practical bun, though a few strands had escaped to frame her face. She had the kind of beauty that came from intelligence and intensity rather than perfect features. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that missed nothing, a mouth currently pressed into a thin line of concentration. Dex had seen her around the station for the past year, always moving with purpose, always surrounded by alien dignitaries or human officials. She was important. He was not. Their paths rarely crossed, and when they did, she looked through him like he was part of the furniture. As he watched, she frowned at something on her datapad and began typing rapidly, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Whatever she was working on, it had her complete attention. Dex finished his breakfast, cleared his tray, and headed for his shift. The maintenance depot was located in the industrial section of Spoke 7, a cavernous space filled with equipment, spare parts, and the organized chaos of a working shop. Dex clocked in at the duty station and checked his assignments on the terminal. The face of Garrett Cole appeared on the screen before he could pull up his roster. Cole was the senior maintenance supervisor, a grizzled veteran with 30 years on the station and a face that looked like weathered leather. He'd been the one to train Dex when he first arrived, teaching him the 1,000 small tricks that kept a station like this running. "Morning, Halloway," Cole's voice crackled through the comm. "Got your assignments loaded. Nothing too exciting today, just the usual preventive maintenance. Oh, and I'm adding one more thing. Someone reported a strange echo in the observation deck on level 42. Probably just acoustic resonance, but check it out when you get a chance." "Copy that," Dex replied. "Anything else?" Yeah, stay away from the diplomatic quarter this afternoon. We've got some big summit happening with the Lumineth. Security's going to be tight, and they don't want maintenance staff wandering around. Understood. The Lumineth. Dex had never seen one in person, though he'd heard the stories. Ancient beings of pure energy, existing partially in another dimension. They rarely visited human space, and when they did, it was for reasons that remained mysterious to most. The fact that one was coming to Starbase 447 was unusual, but it wasn't his concern. He had air filters to replace. Dex spent the next 4 hours in the familiar rhythm of maintenance work. He climbed through access shafts and crawled behind wall panels. He replaced filters clogged with dust and skin cells and the microscopic debris of 50,000 people living in a closed environment. He traced power conduits and tested connections. He recalibrated sensors and cleaned intake valves. It was mindless work, the kind that let his thoughts wander. He thought about the book he was reading, a pre-war thriller about corporate espionage. He thought about whether he should try the new bar that had opened in the commercial district. He thought about sending a message to his mother, something he'd been putting off for weeks. He thought about Dr. Voss and immediately felt stupid for it. By 1300 hours, he'd finished the priority items on his list and made his way to level 42. The observation deck was one of the station's few concessions to aesthetics over function. A large circular room with floor-to-ceiling viewports offering a panoramic view of space. It was popular with off-duty personnel and the occasional tourist who'd paid for a visit to the station. At this hour, it was empty, except for a single figure standing at the far viewport. Admiral Victor Strand, station commander of Starbase 447. Dex froze in the doorway. He'd never been this close to the Admiral before. The man was a legend, 40 years of service, veteran of the Outer Colonies War, architect of the Treaty of Proxima. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his uniform immaculate, his silver hair cut military short. Even from behind, he radiated authority. Dex considered backing out quietly, but the Admiral spoke without turning. "Come in, son. Don't hover in the doorway." The voice was deep and measured, carrying the weight of command without being harsh. Dex stepped inside, his tool belt suddenly feeling very loud as it clinked with each step. "Maintenance, sir," Dex said. "Someone reported an acoustic anomaly." "Did they?" The Admiral still didn't turn. "I've been coming here for 3 years, and I've never noticed anything unusual." "Probably nothing, sir. I'll just run a quick scan and be out of your way." Dex pulled out his multi-scanner and began sweeping the room, grateful for something to do with his hands. The readings came back normal. No structural stresses, no air leaks, no unusual resonances. Just a quiet room with a spectacular view. "What do you see when you look out there, Halloway?" Dex nearly dropped his scanner. The Admiral knew his name. He looked down at his badge, but it was facing the wrong way, unreadable from the Admiral's position. "Sir?" Admiral Strand finally turned, and Dex saw a face lined with age and care, eyes that were a startling pale blue, and an expression that might have been sadness or weariness or both. "The stars," the Admiral said, gesturing to the viewport. "What do you see?" Dex glanced at the view. From this angle, Earth was below them, a vast curve of blue. Above, the Milky Way stretched in a river of light, billions of stars scattered across the black. A transport ship drifted past, its running lights blinking. "I see a lot of space, sir. A lot of distance between things." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Distance. Yes, when I was your age, I saw opportunity, adventure, a galaxy waiting to be explored." He paused. "Now I see threats, territories to defend, alliances to maintain, wars to prevent." "That sounds like a heavy burden, sir." "It is." The Admiral studied him with those pale eyes. "Tell me, Halloway, are you content with your life?" The question caught Dex completely off guard. He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, I don't know, sir. I never really thought about it." "You should. A man should know whether he's content or merely waiting." The Admiral turned back to the viewport. "I've read your file. You score in the 95th percentile on the station's aptitude tests. You've submitted 3 separate proposals for improving maintenance efficiency, all of which were implemented. You have a gift for understanding complex systems, and yet you clean air filters for a living." Dex felt heat rising in his cheeks. "It's honest work, sir. I'm not criticizing. I'm observing. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Do you know why I come here, Holloway? To this observation deck? No, sir. To remember why we're here. All of us. The military, the diplomats, the scientists, the maintenance workers. We're here because humanity decided to reach beyond its cradle. Because we looked up at those stars and said, yes. And now we share this galaxy with 72 other species, each with their own dreams and fears and ambitions. My job is to make sure we all keep talking instead of shooting. The Admiral turned to face him fully. But sometimes I wonder if we've forgotten how to dream. If we've become so focused on maintaining what we have that we've stopped reaching for what we could be. Dex had no idea what to say to that. He stood there, holding his scanner, feeling completely out of his depth. The Admiral smiled slightly. I'm rambling? Old man's privilege? Your scanner find anything? No, sir. Everything reads normal. Good. Then we can both get back to our duties. The Admiral moved toward the door, then paused. Halloway, keep those eyes open. You notice things others miss. That's a rare quality. Then he was gone, leaving Dex alone in the observation deck with a head full of questions and a strange feeling in his chest that he couldn't quite name. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Dex completed his remaining tasks on autopilot, his mind replaying the conversation. Why had the Admiral been there? Why had he spoken to a janitor like they were equals? What had he meant about waiting versus being content? By 1900 hours, Dex was back in his quarters, exhausted but unable to sleep. He stood at his window again, looking out at Earth and the stars beyond. A man should know whether he's content or merely waiting. Was he content? He had a job, a roof over his head, food to eat. He was safe, which was more than many people could say. But was he happy? Dex pressed his forehead against the cool viewport. Down there on Earth, he'd been nobody. Up here on the station, he was also nobody, just in a different location. 6 years of cleaning and fixing and being invisible. His comm unit chirped. Dex pulled it from his belt, expecting another maintenance call. Instead, it was a priority alert, station-wide. All personnel, this is command. We have received a distress signal from the mining colony at Zeta 7. The colony reports an attack by unknown hostiles. All military personnel report to duty stations. Civilian staff remain in quarters until further notice. This is not a drill. Dex's blood went cold. Zeta 7 was in the belt, less than a day's travel from Earth. If something had attacked the colony, his comm chirped again. This time it was Cole. Halloway, I know you heard the alert. Disregard the civilian staff order. I need you in Maintenance Bay 3 immediately. If the fleet deploys, we're going to have every ship on this station running diagnostics and refueling. Get down here. On my way. Dex grabbed his tool belt and headed for the door. As he stepped into the corridor, he could already hear the change in the station's rhythm. The quiet hum of normal operations was giving way to something else, the sound of a military installation preparing for war. He thought about the Admiral's words. Do you know why we're here? To reach for the stars, to protect humanity, to keep the peace. But as Dex ran through the corridors toward Maintenance Bay 3, he couldn't shake the feeling that his ordinary life had just ended, and something else, something he couldn't yet see, was beginning.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.